All right, so in this second to last chapter, we're almost there. Thank y'all for hanging in. We're going to talk about what we kind of were getting to in the previous chapter, which is this ideation of expected persecution. You hear that message a lot throughout the chat logs as well as on the stream. This is kind of where persecution is not only expected, but it's celebrated. And we're going to go through the evidence that supports that argument.
I want this to be a place where it's open, and I'm fully prepared to receive persecution. I am fully prepared for people to be like, hey, love you, Sally, but this is not for me. Can't hang out. Cool. I'm even prepared to be like, hey, you're an idiot. This is stupid. You're, whatever. I hope you die in a fire. I am emotionally prepared for all of that, so.
Which, in my opinion, that's debatable, but it was very like, I'm fully prepared to accept, to get persecuted and all this stuff. And first of all, let's go ahead and break down the definition of persecution, because it's hostility and ill treatment, especially on the basis of ethnicity, religion, and sexual orientation or political beliefs. Hostility or ill treatment, I guess, could be a subjective term, because in my opinion was never completely hostile. It was more question asking, but apparently that's interpreted as persecution. And furthermore, we can see all of these different social media posts from our lovely pastor that persecution is something that's very, very celebrated. And we will see that specific John was John 15 through 18. We're going to see that quoted quite a bit, because it's almost like persecution is something to celebrate.
If people are, pushed away, then so be it. Jesus told us not only to expect persecution, because they hated me first, they will hate you. And so
there it
totally
is.
Prepared for that. And just know, no matter what, I love you guys very, very much.
So she did use the famous Bible verse that I was actually getting to, which is that 1 John 15 through 18 or whatever it is, the one that says they hated me first. But it was funny because it sounded like we were equivocating persecution with disagreement, which is not the same at all. So yes, it's good to stand firm on your convictions. I totally believe that. But being questioned about it, I hardly think would be called persecution. But that's just my opinion.
I am willing to sacrifice my reputation, my community, basically, my platform, my life, everything that I have for the sake of the glory of the Lord.
You've already changed pretty much everything. It sounds like the direction that we're moving is you're not even going to be hosting these soon, in my opinion. So why not just go ahead and do it? Rip off the Band-Aid. Or more importantly, I mean, if you're so firm in these convictions and you're so dead set on making sure that people hear the glory of God and that you have a plan for ministry and all of this stuff, why weren't you able to respond to any other comment?
I wish the whole gay thing wasn't the sin we have to focus on. Greed is doing far more damage. Funny how rich people have managed to do that. Yeah, no, I get it, Jimmy, or Jim. That's very valid. I was not going to talk about LGBTQ, but everybody else brought it up, especially in the LGBTQ community. They are the ones who are bringing it to my attention. So while I'm here just trying, the whole point of the stream was just validating the Bible and showing why it's God's authority. It was people of that identity that are throwing it in my face and demanding an answer to that question. And so it is ironic that that's not what I was going to focus on at all today, but here it is at the hot topic and continues to be the forefront focus of our culture.
There were a lot of other words thrown in there, but basically everybody else brought it up, and it's like, yes, ma'am. Everybody else brought it up. You built your community off being a safe space for the LGBTQ people. You think we were just going to let it slide? Just all of a sudden say, oh, she's telling us we're going to hell. Okay, cool. No, of course we were going to bring it up.
We're going to hell, just as long as you won't be there.
And if you look at the chat window, it's flying off the rails at this point. I do agree with the comment. Like, that comment did make some sound argument. Like, I hate that that was being brought up. What about poor people? Funny you should mention that, because I went through both profiles for Facebook. And for the past year, the only comment I could find regarding poor people was this lovely post from Pastor Jam Jam, kind of stating how he's a sorcerer, probably. I don't even know, but he somehow had a $1 bill turn into 100 in front of his eyes when he was giving a homeless man $1.
I was just wondering if there's a minister around. Is it not a minister? A reverend? A wizard? It's a pastor.
That was the only post I could find regarding what we should do for poor people. There were a lot of posts that said, like, if you idolize money, You will forever be chasing it, whereas if you already have money, then use it as an instrument for God. Anyway, there was nothing really declarative about what should we do for the poor, stuff like that. But I did look up words like hatred and gay, and all of these popped up, which is like, wow, okay, see where our priorities are. And then the whole thing about I understand the frustration of throwing it in my face. They're all throwing it in my face. It's like, I thought you were fully prepared to be persecuted, which I'm just going by your definition of persecuted, which is people disagreeing with you. When she says it's only going to get worse, I agree. But anyway, let's continue.
And I totally expected all of this persecution. I totally expected all of this backlash, all of this, upsetness. I totally expected that. And I'm sorry you're offended. I really am. My goal is not to come on here and just piss people off, to offend them.
You knew that a majority of your followers were coming for the safe space and for the LGBTQ plus community. Think about it logically. If you did not mean to do that and didn't want all of this persecution, then why would you offend them? Anyway, it kind of just sounds like it was your goal, in my opinion. And it makes sense because Pastor Jam Jam glorifies persecution so much. I think that was your goal because of how much it's celebrated to your new beau leader, whatever you want to call him, in my opinion. As I dove more into this, I started seeing, I was like, this isn't her. This isn't her talking. This is somebody else. But you can't get mad at the community you built for coming up with receipts on your messaging and being upset with you. I don't think that's persecution at all. I think you blindsided a bunch of people. At the very least, if you've been thinking this way for a long time and just never told anybody, at the very least, that's scamming people, in my opinion. But if you haven't, then in 6 months transition's time, you all of a sudden turned into this, yes, I can see the anger. But for me, it's confusion. And for me, it's concern. And I gave a lot of money, not as much as some people on here. I know me and my husband combined with all of the gifted subs and stuff that we did.
Oh my God, Jer, bless. Thank you
as
so
well
much.
as
Thank you for the vibe.
All of the incentives. Because again, S tier incentives. It's crazy to me that we loved the community and what it stood for at that time, but getting annoyed with this persecution, but also expecting it and saying you're prepared. It's like, which one are you? You're not trying to offend people, but you're also expecting this persecution. Logically, that does not make sense to me. So in this next clip, we'll see that somebody just came in and raided Sally's stream. And a raid, for those of y'all who don't know, is when somebody on Twitch brings their community over to somebody else's stream. So if somebody's watching me, I can raid another person who is streaming, and all of those chatters will now be in the other person's stream. Just for context, some people don't know, and so I need to make sure to put that. It's just interesting to know her messaging. Let's take a look.
Hi, Sammy. Hi, thank you for the raid. Thank you so much. We're just getting roasted and toasted in here. I'm just getting put over an open flame, but that's fine.
So she's just getting roasted and toasted in here, getting put over an open flame. We're just asking her questions. Oh, well, some people are actually very, very upset. But for most of the questions that were asked, none of them were offensive. None of them were even, in my opinion, ban-worthy. A lot of them were just how could you? A lot of it was just questions of betrayal, which is what a majority of the viewers thought. Well, especially the majority of the people who knew her original content thought. And it's funny because I think at this point, this is the Bible study stream, and I think at this point, the stream has gone for 2.5 hours. It was only supposed to be an hour long. But it went almost 2 hours because all of the messages and people in the community being upset in general and wanting an explanation.
Classic Christian move, self-victimizing to avoid accountability for a terrible take. I'm definitely not self-victimizing. I'm being told some pretty awful things right now, and persecution will come. And it's only going to get worse. All of this is only going to get infinitely worse. So that's fine. That's fine.
But yeah, in my opinion, especially towards the end of the clip when she's like, yeah, it was kind of a realization of, oh yeah, this is going to get worse. So luckily it hasn't gotten worse, I will say. Things that I have said specifically in chat have been pretty calm-natured. It's just how I was brought up. My mama brought me up to be calm-natured. So I usually don't antagonize for the sake of antagonization. I usually just try to make my point across in the most respectful way possible. Sometimes a little emotion seeps through, but hey, I'm only human. But there was one thing that I wanted to bring up when we're talking about like trying to save people and trying to disciple people. And it's from this very famous, well, maybe not too famous if you haven't heard of it, but it's from Dr. E. Dewey Smith Jr. It's a sermon he gave about 20 years ago, or maybe shorter than that. Honestly, I think it was 10 years ago. I don't remember the date, but it was a while ago. But this sermon stuck with me so much because of the quote that he uses where he says, you cannot antagonize and evangelize at the same time. And a lot of the messaging is like pro-gay. It's very like, how can you do this and do this too? And anyway, let's take a look.
And God said to me, here's the problem. You guys in the church can be so hypocritical. You got to re-examine yourself. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, on one hand, you quote homosexuality is an abomination from Leviticus. But you say that right after you ate some shrimp, some catfish, and some lobster. You quote Leviticus while you're wearing a wool blend suit. It's also in Leviticus that you shouldn't wear mixed linens. It's in Leviticus that if your wife is on her cycle, that you shouldn't go in the same house with her or even sleep on the same bed with her. That's in Leviticus too. Here's my point. We pick and choose the scriptures that we want to use to beat folk up with, rather than look at our own lives. Let me tell you something. If God wanted to judge America, he wouldn't need the Supreme Court system. If he wanted to judge America because of sin, he would have judged me in '88 at the Freaknik in Atlanta. Y'all ain't saying nothing to me. Look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, I don't condemn you. I don't judge you. I'm going to preach Christ to you. Because you can't evangelize and antagonize at the same time.
Pretty much what I'm getting out of this is that it's just an MLM for souls. And then the whole ex-gay thing does not work. It's actually more damaging. I'll link to the Cornell study that proves that. So while I do believe this might have worked for Sally, because again, she is bisexual, or in her words, a lesbian bisexual. So she's probably able to cut that part off of herself and still live a normal life, which is possible. But for those of us who live in the homo world where they're gay or lesbian, it's not exactly as black and white as that, and it doesn't work. In a personal story, my sister was actually, well, let's see how we can word this. My sister was an ex-gay. So my sister was gay. She got caught and went through the whole conversion process. And then not long after that, I came out. I was expected to go through that process again, but I flat out said, no, I ain't gonna. Because you can't talk me out of it because I wasn't talked into it, kind of deal.
I thought this is what being gay feels like. Bring it on.
And then in my journal, after, this was like when I was like 22 years old, so a while ago, don't ask. But a while ago, I made a prediction in my journal because I was like, I'm pretty sure that she is gonna come back. Like she's gay. So I made a prediction for the year, and then, you know, a couple years ago, it was pretty recent, she came back out of the closet, and she's now married to a woman, and they're happy and in love and awesome. But I was like 4 years off. I was really disappointed in that. I was 4 years late, so I guessed that she would be coming back out of the closet in like 3 more years, or in 2028, but she already did. So I was a little, I mean, like, I'm not mad about it because of course I knew it was going to happen. I'm just happy that she's happy and she's doing great, and that we're no longer in this ex-gay mind destroying thing. But that's another thing that I wanted to bring up, is how strong Sally is in her conviction of, you know, destroying this sin through finding God. It's how strong I am in my conviction that it's not a sin and you can't get rid of it.
Most of us here believe that sexual orientation is a result of a genetic predisposition, much like handedness.
When she said when she said that last message of like, I've been where you are, has no merit to me because she hasn't been where I am. She's had the ability to like the same sex or like the opposite sex, whereas I have never had that ability.